And the same survey had the same data about the flag, that the flag flying, along with all the traditional social behavior that takes place on the 4th of July, tends to promote feelings of the Republican Party. People obviously are motivated toward patriotic, love of country themes and ideas. And it struck home with me because it also had the counterpart that this kind of activity angered Democrats. Flying the flag, engaging in traditional Independence Day, 4th of July behavior. And if you doubted it then, by God, you should not doubt it now. You know, I made a point on yesterday's program. What's wrong with America remaining America? And, of course, that's the objective of the people currently protesting, say, getting rid of ICE or whatever. They want to transform and change America. So I would suggest everybody fly your flag tomorrow. Be American. Go out and just do what you would normally be inclined to do, but don't be intimidated into flying the flag. Don't be intimidated by any patriotic activity, because you never know the impact it's going to have on people. These effects in that Harvard survey were not just outward. Some of them were subliminal. You never know where this kind of influence can take place. But I just wanted to remind everybody of that. If those plans that you have tomorrow include such outward, even the lighting of fireworks. And the left doesn't like that because that could lead to climate change and forest fires and a number of things. I mean, stop and think of it. There's literally very little that happens on Independence Day that liberals celebrate and want to be part of. How you doing, folks? Great to have you here. Telephone number 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So it's the day before Independence Day, and I have been doing my routine of show prep here. And part of that routine is having cable news on. And there is one subject dominating the news today. Isn't it amazing how the Russia collusion investigation is invisible? It's way over there. Nobody's really... Remember how fired up everybody was about that? And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez comes along and wins. Everybody's all fired about her. We get more news about her today. But all of that's gone. The drive-by media has left the scene of those impacts, crimes, accidents, whatever. They moved on. And now 2 women are the sole subject of most of the news today. One of those women is Susan Collins, and the other of those women is Amy Cole Barrett. The left is intent on making sure that Susan Collins votes no. Their theory is that if Susan Collins votes no on Trump's Supreme Court nominee, that the nominee cannot be confirmed. The McCain seat, we don't know if there will be a vote or if his wife will come to. We don't know what's going to happen with that, so there's no margin for error. But what everybody is forgetting is that Gorsuch got the votes of 3 Democrats that are in red states that Trump won, and the same situation is going to be existent whenever we get to this nomination. But it is overwhelming what is occupying the drive-by media today. The media, the rest of the Democrats, pinning their hopes on Susan Collins, senator from Maine, to carry the day for them. Since McCain or his wife, if either of them shows up to vote, doubt that he will, but it's being thought that the McCain seat, if there is a vote, would be no. The Washington Post is saying that Senator Collins' no vote would be enough to defeat Trump's nominee, but they are wrong about that. Amy Barrett, the other woman in the news, Amy Coney Barrett, experts. I'm going to go through just a short little description of her for you, because the long knives are out. They're trying to destroy her. Do you remember, folks, you remember she was up for Senate confirmation when Trump nominated her to be an appellate court judge in the 7th Circuit. Do you remember she was the judge to whom Dianne Feinstein said, there's a lot of dogma in your Catholicism. Remember the outright attack on Catholicism made by Feinstein? It was to this woman, Amy Coney Barrett. And it was all about Roe versus Wade. And she said at the time, look, I would not be an opportunity for a no vote on Roe versus Wade. I'm at an appellate court here. The Supreme Court's going to have the final say on this if it ever comes back up again, but I respect Supreme Court precedent, she said. And Dianne Feinstein, we've got the soundbite, we'll go back to it. She's just launched into her for being too Catholic, too dogmatic, too religious. And the Democrats tell us they are opposed to litmus tests. So the experts say that one of the leading contenders for Trump's nomination is, in fact, Judge Amy Coney Barrett. She checks every box. She went to a prestigious law school in Notre Dame. She's not Ivy League, however. And there is a little blurb of a story out there that says Trump wants somebody from the Ivy League. Well, she's not from the Ivy League. And people are snickering at the idea that Trump wants somebody from the Ivy League. Whoa, Trump, he's just a status seeker. Trump's not an Ivy Leaguer, but he just wants his nominees to be so Trump could. Well, Trump went to Wharton. He went to the Wharton Business School. Trump is not your average Ivy leaguer in image, but he has lineage there. But she does not. Amy Coney Barrett, law school, Notre Dame. She wrote for the Notre Dame Law Review, and there's evidence of it. Obama wrote for Law Review at Harvard, but there's no evidence. Whatever Obama wrote, nobody can find, but they said he did run the Law Review. That's a big deal. She held an appellate court clerkship. She held a Supreme Court clerkship. She clerked with Justice Scalia. She has elite law firm experience. She taught law at Notre Dame. She now has experience as a federal judge on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, and she's done all of that while being the mother to 7 kids, and the libs are ticked off about that. She's had too many kids. That's bad for the planet. That's bad for climate change. That's bad for worldwide food resources. That's more kids than anybody should have. That's not good. She's done everything in her life, and she's excelled at everything in addition to being a mom with 7 kids. You would think the feminists would be cheering this woman, but you would be wrong, because we actually don't expect the feminists to be cheering this woman, because feminism itself is a lie. If feminism were true, Amy Barrett would be at the top of their list and they would be supporting her. But feminism is just liberalism. It's not about women doing everything. It's not about women being all they can be. It's not about women having it all, doing it all, getting it all. It's about liberalism. And now communism and Marxism. See, she's Catholic, and therefore she's presumed to be pro-life. Hell, a pope may not be pro-life. Who knows anymore about this pope? In fact, Judge Barrett is now being attacked for Christianity. It's open season on Christians in America, and she's being attacked for hers. The attacks are not open. They are thinly disguised as concern about Roe versus Wade and access to contraception. In other words, the same old stuff the Democrats trot out against every Republican judicial nominee. Mr. Snerdley, you may remember I've told this story in variations a number of times. It usually happens around elections, but I'll be out and about, going where I go, running into the people I run into. And I run into a bunch of Republicans, fat cat Republicans with liberal wives or nagging liberal. And these guys come up to me. You gotta stop talking about abortion. You gotta stop it. We gotta stop talking about the social issues. We're never gonna win. You gotta get rid of it. Though I'm putting it there as though it's my responsibility to get rid of the discussion of social issues. And finally, I'd had it, and then their wives would come up to me. We got to stop talking about abortion. We're never going to win anything. We're never going to win a thing if all we stand for is... And I finally got to the point, I put my hands up. I said, you know what? I'm not talking about it. The people that bring it up are the Democrats and the leftists. We don't bring it up. We're not the ones running around pronouncing on this all the time. They are. We react to what they say, but we're not leading any charge here on this. But it was always used as a convenient explanation for why Republicans were losing elections, and it was always a bogus explanation for why Republicans were losing elections. It was a convenient excuse for people that didn't have the guts to articulate policies and beliefs that were anti-Democrat or anti-leftist. So many Republicans were insistent on being moderate, being seen as not controversial, because they were embarrassed. They were embarrassed of the newsmakers on the Republican side because of their conservatism. And I remember catching this on all fronts. And I got sick and tired of it. I got sick and tired of people pointing their fingers at me and telling me, you got to stop talking about abortion. You got to move on to we're never going to win anything. Meanwhile, we win every time social issues come up. The majority of Americans are with us on social issues. But if we don't act like we stand on it, we're going to lose them. But the point is, we're not the ones that run around and talk about it all the time. The left is. They're the ones that can't let go of this. They're the ones forcing things down everybody's throat. They're forcing gay marriage down our throat. They're forcing lesbian, gay, bisexual, bathroom stuff, all of those upheaval, cultural issues. We're sitting around, standing around, minding our own business, and every day we wake up and these people are trying to pervert something else in our culture. And then I have to end up running around listening to people point fingers at me. You got to stop talking about abortion. You got to stop being pro-life. It's hurting the Republicans. I'm not even, running for office. In our parents' and grandparents' day, social issues would not even be mentioned in any discussion of nominees to the Supreme Court. It was not seen as their job. But now it's singularly a disqualifier for people on the left and in the media. I mean, it's interesting as this stuff plays out to watch the left panic over this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's some polling data also along these lines that I want to share with you. There is first off a story here in the UK Daily Mail. Now, let me save that. You know what? That's relevant, but it's not the one I wanted to get to first. Here it is, Quinnipiac. If Democrats retake the House this fall, they will have women to thank. There's a Quinnipiac University poll out that shows that the gender gap between men and women is huge. It is as large as it's ever been. And the primary demographic that is supposedly anti-Republican and anti-Trump is young women. Overall, men favor a Republican Congress. I think it's an 8-point margin. Women want a Democrat Congress by a 25-point margin. You add 25 and 8, that's 33. That's a huge swing. You throw this Supreme Court nomination battle into the mix, and believe me, politicians look at polls like this. I frankly don't live and die by them, as you know, but people in Washington and in politics do. And I think these polls are, even the ones that might be indicative, are actually not all that relevant, particularly this far out from an election. But since Washington lives and dies by them and reports them, we have to pass them on. So I don't know what the samples yet. I haven't gone into the breakdown. I don't know what percentage of the survey sample here was Democrat versus Republican. But regardless, the Quinnipiac poll, it's a massive, massive gender gap, and most of it is young women. Of course, the drive-bys reporting is to say, well, that's because of Trump. Young women, they just despise Trump. Young women hate Trump. All women should hate Trump. Well, this takes me to the first thing I was going to mention. The UK Daily Mail. Women are hardwired to find well-meaning, sexist men more attractive because they think they'll be protected and provided for, according to a study from the University of Kent and Iowa State University. They carried out 5 tests to explore the theory that women are more attracted to what they call benevolent sexists. Now, this flies in the face of everything that this harkens back decades to what used to be thought of as the traditional male-female boundaries, relationship roles, and so forth, the male as protector and provider. And you've got a recent survey which says that women are hardwired, meaning it's genetic, it's the way they are, to find well-meaning sexists more attractive because they think they'll be protected and provided for. Now, throw that up against this Quinnipiac poll that shows all these women hating Trump. Look, I got to take a break. We'll be back. We will continue. We're just getting rolling and started here, the EIB network, so don't go. Men prefer a Republican Congress by 8 points. Women prefer a Democrat Congress by 25 points. That's a 33-point shift. Does anybody believe that? The thing is that people that make the news, that create the news, and people that live the news in Washington are going to believe it. But I've gotten to the point where I don't trust very much polling data at all, because I don't think it's used to reflect public opinion. I think you use it to make public opinion. That just sounds like too wide a gap. It doesn't match with reality. Doesn't match with what we see, unless the polling sample is exclusively, young women in universities on the east and west coasts. But if let's say you choose to believe that, but you want to discard this survey that's from the University of Kent, Iowa State, women hardwired to find well-meaning, sexist men. There's a difference in well-meaning and mean. Like this survey purports to say that some women are okay with sexist guys if they are benevolent. Women find them more attractive. They think they'll be protected and provided for. Now, you run around and tell your average feminist today that the thing to look for in a man is somebody that's going to protect her and provide for her, and you better be wearing an athletic cup, because that's the last thing supposedly any modern feminist wants to hear, is that the role of a man in a relationship is protector and provider. But how strange is it in real life in America? We're led to believe, women don't want any of that. They're not interested in that. Women want to provide for themselves, and they don't want to be in relationships, and they want to be dependent on men. Really? The researchers' tests found that women are more attracted to men who have benevolent sexist attitudes or actions than they are attracted to men who treat them as equals. Human nature, baby. Human nature. The feminists have tried to wipe it out, but they're failing. A couple of audio sound bites that tie in here, friend, and both from CNN this morning, right before the, one of them just since the program began. First up is Joan Biskupic. Joan Biskupic is a CNN legal analyst, and it's time now to attack another Republican woman. In fact, you know what? Before we get to these sound bites, let me grab this guy on line one, because this guy on line one, our caller, has it nailed. His name is Josh. He's in Brick, New Jersey. How you doing, Josh? Welcome to the program today.
Thank you for taking my call, Russ. Just to your point yesterday when you said, of course, they're going to oppose Amy Barrett because she's a woman. I think, in fact, because she's a woman, they're going to impugn and malign her even more. You see what they did to Clarence Thomas in the 1991 hearing? Anyone that the left thinks should be part of their coalition and isn't is considered a turncoat, and everything is fair game. They will treat Amy Barrett, if she's the pick, a lot worse than had it been a man that was pro-abortion.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's exactly right. Old Josh here has got it. There are people on the Republican side, these fat cat Republicans with their lib wives that constantly have been harassing me about abortion. They come up to me and they'll say, we need to nominate a woman. We need to nominate a woman in a circumstance like this because they won't attack a woman. I said, you're crazy. They'll destroy a woman who is not a leftist. They will destroy a pro-choice woman, I tell them. No, no, no. We need to nominate a woman. They will go. And there's a lot of moderate type establishment Republican thinking that believes if you nominate a woman, the left's going to find it much tougher to savage her. Give me a break. Ever heard of Sarah Palin, folks? Have you ever heard of Kirstjen Nielsen? I mean, the examples I could give you are a mile long. They are going to destroy or try to Amy Barrett, and Josh is right, just as they tried to destroy Clarence Thomas. See, his seat, that was Thurgood Marshall's. Thurgood Marshall. He owned that seat. Clarence Thomas had no right to the Thurgood Marshall seat, even though it's not the Thurgood Marshall seat. It was an open seat on the United States Supreme Court. So there's no question they're going to go after this woman if she's the nominee, or any other woman who is the nominee. There's no, folks, there is no way to soften the left on this. There's no way you can nominate, unless the biggest mistake of the world was made and you nominate a moderate leftist. And, even then, I think the Democrats are so focused on the midterms and trying to win them, and the resistance in the Democrat Party is so strident, I don't know that they're capable of supporting any Trump nominee. So given that, I would nominate the best you can find, whoever you want, and go to the mattresses for them. This is, there's two schools of thought on this confirmation battle taking place at the same time the campaign for the midterms is. Some people think that'd be a terrible, terrible mistake because it would be airing a bunch of issues Republicans don't want aired. The Democrats would make hay. And if Roe versus Wade becomes a focal point, it could have a negative impact on Democrat voter turnout. I mean, spike it real high. The other thought is, no, embrace it, be aggressive, and use the Supreme Court nomination as an opportunity to get your issues out and hammer those home. And I think that's Trump. Trump likes offense and he likes chaos. The one thing Trump doesn't do is play defense. Thank goodness. I don't know about you, but I'm fed up with playing reactionary defense all the time, or defense, to pronounce that properly. So let's go to the audio sound bites here. Joan Biskupic, CNN legal analyst. She's being interviewed by Kate Baldwin. Question: the president is at least on some level interested in choosing a woman. There's only one woman he's interviewed so far. What is important to know about Amy Coney Barrett?
I don't think she will diffuse the abortion issue. I think she might ratchet it up because of some of her writings. She was confirmed by a pretty tight vote, 55 to 43, I believe it was, with only 3 Democrats voting for her. And she's written in the area of religion that could end up being a flashpoint in any confirmation hearing. She also is finally a former law clerk of Antonin Scalia.
What's that supposed to mean? Is that a strike against her? Yeah, it is. She's a law clerk for Scalia. That means she's horrible, because Scalia was horrible. She was confirmed by pretty tight, 55-40. It doesn't matter. She was confirmed. Okay, so Gorsuch, he wasn't confirmed unanimously. It doesn't matter. This is not horseshoes. You win, you win. It doesn't matter if it's 1 vote or 20. Here's Jonathan Martin, formerly of Politico, now with the New York Times, a different CNN show this afternoon. And he's commenting on how Trump makes these decisions.
I think Trump is probably more taken with whoever kind of moves him in the moment and who he feels like looks the part. I mean, if we know anything about the president, he's so taken with optics and appearances and the perception that is so critical in his mind to politics and public relations. So I think that's going to trump all.
Okay, what are we hearing there? How would you translate that? What Jonathan Martin of the New York Times is saying, Trump is going to go for the good-looking babe. Trump loves good-looking babes. He owned the Miss USA pageant, or may still, who knows? Trump likes babes. Look at his wife. Look at Marla Maples. Trump loves good-looking women. He's going to go out and pick a good-looking woman. Trump's in the image. They still don't know Donald Trump. It's amazing. They think they do, and they haven't. They haven't gained any significant ground at all in their quest to understand Trump. And that that soundbite is an illustration. But, you know, Jonathan Martin's not along in bringing looks into this. See, that's something we're not supposed to do, folks. We're not supposed to comment on the looks of people in politics because you know why? Politics is showbiz for the ugly. We're not supposed to talk about how people look. But they do. And our old buddy, Chris Cillizza, formerly with the Washington Post, now with CNN, has been blasted for a tweet that he sent about her appearance. He tweeted a photo of Amy Coney Barrett and said, if you believe Trump makes decisions based on image and appearance, and he does, then here's the next Supreme Court justice. And he plastered a picture of Amy Coney Barrett there. Cillizza wrote in an accompanying article that Trump is obsessed with image. Notice how, okay, so I don't know who said this first, but Jonathan Martin and now Chris Cillizza saying identical things. Trump is obsessed with image. He's obsessed with PR. He's obsessed with buzz. And Trump, Cillizza says, will appreciate that Barrett is a young woman with 7 children. How you look is a major marker for how you will do in Trump's world, Cillizza said. You need to look the part for him to imagine you in the job. My friends, far be it for me to cite any specific examples here, but folks, don't make me say it. I mean, the evidence abounds that these guys are wrong. The evidence is everywhere that these guys are wrong. They want you to think that Trump picks 10s because Trump is out making news with 10s. Trump's doing things with number 10, number 9. The evidence abounds that this is not the case, both men and women. But look who it is, again, focused on looks. It isn't us. Look again who's focused on abortion and Roe versus Wade. Not us. It's them. Here's Dianne Feinstein. Grab audio soundbite number 11. Feinstein interviewing Amy, well, interrogating her during confirmation hearings, September 6, 2017. Judiciary Committee confirmation hearings on Amy Coney Barrett for the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals.
When you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. And that's of concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country. I assume if you were on the lists that you would be a no vote on Roe. And that puts a number of us, just very honestly, in layman's language, in a very difficult position.
Okay, so what she means by dogma is the Catholic dogma. Di Fi said that when you read your speeches, Barrett, the conclusion one draws is that the Catholic dogma, Catholicism is dogma, lives loudly within you. And that's of concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for. Meaning there's a bunch of us that don't like Christians, and we've been working really hard to take this country away from you, and you're gonna stop us from getting away with taking the country away from. That's what Dianne Feinstein means here. Dianne Feinstein is Jewish. Is she dogmatic in her Jewish faith? I'm just asking. I don't know. But we're not supposed to bring this stuff up, are we? But they do. There isn't a religious test. Your religion does not exclude you. It does not disqualify you. The left wants it to, because this country was founded by God-fearing people. The left is trying to change this country's identity and transform it. And so what this means, there's a lot of people who fought for years in this country to take this country away from people like you and your Christian dogma. And then she said, I assume if you're on the lists, meaning the president's lists of qualified judges, if you're on the lists, that means you'd be a no vote on Roe versus Wade, and that puts a number of us, just very honestly, in layman's language, in a very difficult position. Why do you need to say layman's language when you say the very difficult position? Here is how Amy Coney Barrett responded in part.
I'm being considered for a position on a court of appeals, and there would be no opportunity to be a no vote on Roe. And as I said to the committee, I would faithfully apply all Supreme Court precedent.
Got to take a break. We'll do that and be back before you know it, folks. Don't go away. We'll relax certain things. Normally, I wouldn't have even thought about going to phone calls by now, and already taken one. So we're going to stick with it. We're going to go to Marietta, Georgia. This is Donald. Great to have you on the EIB network, sir. Hello.
I can't believe I got through to you, Rush. I have been listening since 1988 and called hundreds of times and never got through.
Well, I'm glad you did. Congratulations. I know what a big deal it is. If I were in your shoes, it'd be the event of the year.
It's even a big deal to you. I was a dyed-in-the-heart liberal, or dyed-in-the-wool liberal from Massachusetts 30 years ago, and not even close now. But I'm calling because yesterday you were talking about Licensed to Lie by Sidney Powell.
I did, yes.
I was driving, so I asked my wife to look it up for me on Amazon, and she did. And there was a brand new copy available for $29. A few minutes later, I asked her, I said, hey, see what you can find for a used one. And she went back, and she says, what? And the prices went up from $29. The cheapest one was now $77.90.
Whoa!
Was the next
$77. The price went from $29 to $77.
Oh, but that's not all of it, Rush.
Wait a second.
I sent her back even one more time, and then I saw $5.99. $631, a collector's edition at $1303, all used, and I got screenshots to prove it.
I don't know, but you're, those $5.99, $631s, those are like eBay's or collector's.
No, this is on Amazon. This is all Amazon. It's all the same site. All she did was refresh.
$631 for a book?
Yes, sir. Yes,
now there's
sir.
there's something. You sure they weren't packaging it with some other books in it? Did you? Snerdley's in there nodding.
Absolutely positive, Rush. What it is, and I put this on my Facebook page, #RushMovesMarkets.
Well, yes, long ago established, but I didn't. I mean,
that's astounding. Isn't
I bought the ebook version like 3 weeks ago for whatever it. I don't remember. $24.99.
Yeah,
this book is 4 years old.
The Kindle version was $7.
Kindle version was $7. Okay,
yeah.
So do you read ebooks or did you want the actual?
No,
hard?
I'm a hardcover guy. I don't care hard or paper, but I like to read.
Okay,
the book in my hand.
So which version did you have your wife buy one of them? Which one did you get?
Oh no, we didn't. I'm a cheapskate too. I was going to get it used at a cheaper price, so I haven't gotten it.
Well, see, if you had an iPad or a Kindle, you could go in there and get it for $7, and you'd have the same words, and you'd it's convenient reading on one of those devices. But I had no idea. I've never heard of this.
Isn't that crazy? My eyes were just bugging when she said that. I was driving down.
Can your wife see? Can she read?
Oh, of course she can read.
I'm just because this seems unbelievable.
We're retired. We weren't born yesterday. She just retired working as a quality assurance test manager in software development. I mean, she knows what.
Well, then
she's
she
doing.
can read. There's no question about that. I just thought maybe she was missing a decimal point in these prices or something.
I know it's hard. Even I was astounded, especially with the second refresh when it went up over $1,000 for the so-called collectible edition.
I'm blown away by this too. I must you've caught me a little flat-footed here. I did not know any of this. I mean, I didn't. The program ended just. This is the first I've heard about any of this since the program ended. I mean, I know there was probably going to be some additional sales of the book yesterday, but I had no idea of this. This book is 4 years old. Anyway, I'm glad people are going to get this thing and read it because it's explosive. By the way, the Harvard study, let me run through the details of this. This was from a U.S. News and World Report magazine story from 7 years ago, June 30th, 2011. And the headline, Harvard July 4th parades are right-wing. University study says parades turn youngsters into Republicans. You remembering this? And here's a couple of sections, pull quotes from the article. Democrat political candidates can skip 4th of July parades. A new Harvard University study finds that July 4th parades energize only Republicans. They turn kids into Republicans and help to boost the GOP turnout of adults the next election day. 4th of July celebrations in the United States shape the nation's political landscape by forming beliefs and increasing participation, primarily in favor of the Republican Party, said the report from Harvard. The political right has been more successful in appropriating American patriotism and its symbols. Why would that be? Would somebody, wait a second now. The political right has been more successful in appropriating? What appropriate? They're there. The flag is the flag. Independence Day is Independence Day. What do you mean appropriate it? Turning it into patriotism. What is it? Is it a day we're not supposed to be patriotic? This is why I asked the question yesterday. What's wrong with America remaining America? You know, that really what is at stake here? I stumbled into the line. I mean, it was not something that I barnstormed the night before. I was reading something about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and some of this new wave of socialists and communists in the Democrat Party. And so what's wrong with America remaining America? Because that crystallizes it. This whole immigration battle, open borders, no borders, is about changing or erasing America as is. And the battle is between those who want America to remain America and those who don't. And Harvard 7 years ago with this study saying that 4th of July parades, the flag, the national anthem, cookouts, barbecues, all of these things turn young people into Republicans. Now, we know that that's not universal. I mean, there's been obviously a bunch of kids at Democrat. Well, now, wait a minute. I was going to say that we have to know a lot of kids at Democrats have gone to 4th of July parades, and after it's over, remain Democrats. And maybe they don't go. Maybe these are the people that don't wave their flag. Remember Tom Brokaw speaking for American journalists, and I can't put an American flag lapel pin on my suit. I have to remain my objectivity. I have to remain an objective journalist. I cannot pick sides. An American journalist can't pick sides, even though the library of every journalist's freedom is the United States of America. But they can't choose sides. I found it interesting. And now we have a Gallup poll. The share of Democrats and liberals who say that they're extremely proud to be American has collapsed. Since 2013, the share of Democrats and liberals who say that they're extremely proud to be American has collapsed. Let's see, fewer than 1 in 3 Democrats, that's less than 33%, are extremely proud to be Americans. Democrat opinion of Republican is down, and Republican opinion is up since Trump took office. Now, admittedly, some of this is due to Democrat disappointment that Trump won and that Hillary lost. And so there's a significant amount of depression and mental disease that has swept over certain sectors of the Democrat Party. And of course, no, I'm not proud of my country. My country elected Donald Trump. Of course not. But that's not what the poll asked. Are you proud to be American? That ought to be independent of whoever's in the White House. And I understand that for a lot of people it isn't so. It turns out that David Asman on Fox, the Fox Business Channel, happened to get hold of my question, innocently probed yesterday, what's wrong with America remaining America? And he decided to discuss that. We'll see here. Audio soundbites 2 and 3. Here's Asman on, he was co-hosting Lou Dobbs Tonight.
Rush Limbaugh, the great one himself, today hammering the Dems who are calling for the abolishment of ICE and their dangerous open border policy.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything wrong with America remaining America? But to the left, there is something inherently wrong with America remaining America. That's what their open borders policy is all about. And Asman weighed in as to his thoughts on it.
You have assimilation and you have rule of law, and that's exactly what the Democrats are breaking with. And that's why they don't want America to be what America could be and what it has been. There is the left wing of the party, which seems to be morphing into the mainstream of the Democratic Party, and they don't want America to be America. They feel guilty about America. The old liberal guilt really exists. I mean, they feel guilty about it. They don't care how they get rid of their guilt, no matter what damage it does to the America that most Americans, I think, love.
Now, I used to think this. I used to believe that it was guilt. And those of you who have been lifer listeners of this program know that. I think it's gone beyond guilt now. I don't think they're guilty. I think they're filled with hatred. I think it has morphed. I mean, there may be some people who are still, guilty of America's wealth and standard of living and power and prominence, and think that because of their guilt, to assuage it, they need to overwhelmingly support giving a lot of it away to people around the world who are, quote unquote, less fortunate. But I think that's a minority of them. I think that guilt has morphed into hatred. I don't think there's any question about it. Whatever it is, guilt or hatred, there is a rising percentage of the Democrat Party that simply doesn't like this country and does not think America should remain America. Now, we have, interestingly here, from the Campus Reform website, they posted a video of one of their media directors, Cabot Phillips, asking several New York University students if they're in fact proud to be American. And here's that montage.
Are you proud to be an American?
Definitely not.
No, I'm not proud of America.
No, not the America we have right now. No, I'm not proud.
No.
What about America right now would you consider yourself not proud of?
I mean, I think the answer is pretty obvious. Just look at the news.
Open border issues.
Were you not proud when Obama did it 5 years ago?
I think that it's different now.
I would, first of all, reverse everything Trump has done.
Any places that come to mind that would be better?
Probably some nice little socialist country in Europe.
All right, now these are college clowns, young co-eds and students and so forth, skulls full of mush. But this is what they're being taught. And you notice, have you seen the news? Where do you think they're picking this stuff up? So Gallup says the share of Democrats and liberals who say they're extremely proud to be Americans has collapsed. By the way, 2013 is Obama. That's 3 years before Trump. This is liberal Democrats in the midst of Obama. Since 2013, it's collapsed. It's not exclusively tied to Trump. And I maintain this is because this is how they're influenced. It's what they're taught. And it's not complicated. I remember growing up, and I was not taught hateful things about America. I was not told I needed to feel guilty over being an American. None of that. But then when the 60s came along, I was in my teenage years, late teen, early adults, when the 60s hit, that was my first dose of it. That was my first dose that there are people out there at my age and just a little older who really, really, really didn't like this country. And I didn't know why. Too young. I hadn't had enough life experience to understand it all. But the 60s provides the modern traceable route to all of this that is happening now, I think. So it's an ongoing problem. But here's the thing, folks. They are a minority. They are a minority of the people, a minority of the thinking in this country. And if the right campaign is run, they can be defeated. Pretty much any national election you want to run. You have to have the right candidate. You have to have the right message and so forth. My point is it's not trying to be Pollyanishly positive here, but they are not anywhere near a majority of the population or of the thinking. They're growing, there's no question. But people have been asking me for my entire number of years, you're going to tell us when it's time to panic, right? And I said, yeah, I'll tell you. And it's not time to panic. Nowhere near it, in fact. In fact, we're moving the other way. We're moving away from any scenarios that would call for panic. We'll be back after this. Stay with us. It's about $38 million a year, minus his taxes are going to take federal. He's going to be paying about 65% of that in taxes, depending how he structures it. And so Dan Rather, did you see Dan Rather's tweet on LeBron James? Here's Dan Rather. We know LeBron James has been outspoken about Trump, so it makes sense to head to California, the heartland of the resistance. The fact that he'll be trying to resist the dominance of the Warriors is an added plot twist. So Dan Rather thinks that LeBron James chose Los Angeles to be part of the Trump resistance. The $155 million had nothing to do with it. Let me tell you something. If you want to move to California because you want to become part of the Trump resistance, guess what you're going to be part of? An echo chamber. Nobody's going to stand out there. The whole state is the resistance to Trump. There's no way LeBron James can make a name for himself going out there. I decided to bring my talents to L.A. where I can stop and oppose Donald Trump. Well, get in line, LeBron. You got Oprah over here. You got half of Hollywood over there. You got the music industry. That's not why. LeBron already owns a home in Brentwood. He already owns 2 homes out there. The reason LeBron James went there is crystal clear. That's where all of the media moguls and the entertainment moguls are, and that's where he goes to become Michael Jordan next, in terms of animated movies, cartoons, TV shows, or what have you. But Dan Rather, no. LeBron James chose Los Angeles and California to be part of the Trump resistance. Here's Tony in New York. Tony, glad you waited. Great to have you on the Rush Limbaugh program. Hi.
Thank you, Rush. Happy 4th of July from a proud American.
Thank you, sir.
Right to the point. If the Supreme Court was a big issue in the last presidential election, and if Trump nominates Amy Barrett, it could be a great strategic move to get vulnerable Democrat senators in red states like Manchin and McCaskill on record against a pro-life woman. Could be a nice Trump strategy.
For the sake of these people being defeated in their Senate races in November?
Exactly. Yeah, she either gets confirmed or they risk losing their seats because they're voting against the values of their constituents.
Well, let's look at this. You mentioned McCaskill. I haven't heard her name in this mix, but she's in trouble anyway.
Right.
You know, the latest thing we learned about Eau Claire, she had a bus trip through the state of Missouri to meet the voters, except she was never on a bus. She took the family private jet to all the locations and then had a secret vehicle take her to the bus before it rolled into town at every one of the stops. But you got Joe Manchin, you got Heidi Heitkamp, and there's one other Democrat senator, red state, that voted for Gorsuch. And that's how he ended up being confirmed. And the same thinking is looking at if it's Amy Coney Barrett. We don't even, by the way, folks, we don't know that it's going to be Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, let me just put the brakes on this. Nobody knows who Trump's going to nominate. We're going to find out on Monday. He's got a list of 25 that he says he's narrowed down to 5, but it could be her, but we just don't know. She's been confirmed before, and so there's that you add to the plus column. But the idea that you would nominate somebody to flush out about a bunch of phony red state Democrats so as to defeat them in November in the Senate, I can understand the thinking. I don't know that I would toss away a Supreme Court nomination for that reason. This is defining. Folks, you have to understand, to the American left, to the Democrats, the Marxists and communists, the Supreme Court is the legislature, not Congress. The Supreme Court is actually, and the judiciary as a whole, that's where law is written. You get liberal judges appointed when they have the White House, and they have these people appointed for life, and they exercise their personal policy preferences rather than judge the law. Take a look at the 4 libs on the Supreme Court. It does not matter what the case is. Those 4 liberals vote in lockstep 98% of the time. So if the nominee is somebody who's designed to flush out a bunch of Democrats that might go down in flames, if you're forward, maybe you do that because then it enables confirmation of future nominations a little easier if you get rid of some Democrats in the Senate. So you might have a point here. I don't. Did you mean to use the nomination on somebody you really don't care about just to flush these people out of you?
No. With the you want them to be confirmed. So first of all, you definitely want her to be confirmed, and if all things were fine, then she would just go through. But it's a double-pronged strategy, because if she isn't confirmed, you at least have the people who are vulnerable on record. So then that does play into the second win, which would be future appointments.
Yeah. Interesting. You know what I've noticed as I've watched the news? And again, it's not the news. I have watched broadcasts where ostensibly news is reported. And I have seen a bunch of female and male analysts who are advocates for Trump and various of his nominees. And the confidence that they all are expressing is notable. There isn't a one of them that doesn't think Trump's going to get who he wants. Get him confirmed. I mean, I normally you see some people expressing caution. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's going to be a very, very tough fight. This could be a knockdown drag. It could go on long beyond the elections. But everybody I'm seeing, I mean, with connections to the Federalist Society or other legal conservative think tanks, all believe that Trump is going to get whoever he nominates confirmed and before the elections. And yet, if you turn to the left side, they're already calculating that Trump's lost his nominee because McCain can't vote. They've lost Susan Collins and Murkowski, and there aren't any Democrats. And the left is telling their audience that Trump can't nominate anybody that he really wants because nobody he really wants can get confirmed. I've always thought August 1st was the anniversary date of this program, and it actually is. But it isn't, in a way, because July 4th, 1988, was actually my first show on the New York affiliate. And this program didn't start for a month later, but it was all connected. And so July 4th of 1988, which 30th anniversary will be tomorrow, remember certainly what happened on that date? There was an Iranian, or maybe it was a Iraqi jet that had crashed. The rumors were the United States is shot down, and rescue efforts were underway. But somebody just from, you keep saying August 1st, but you started in New York on July 4th, and that's absolutely right. And then this person said it was so long ago. It was so long ago. It's like it's so long ago it almost didn't happen. It's that. But to me, it's yesterday. I remember events from all 30 of these years, and it doesn't seem like long ago to me. There are elements of it that seem like it was just yesterday. I mean, of course, I do it, so I'm a little bit more conscious or connected to it than most. But it's also undeniable that 30 years is a long time. I mean, just in period, whether you're doing the same thing for those 30 years or just 30 years go by. But in one way, it doesn't even seem like 30 years. Sometimes, well, it never does. It never seems like 30 years. Most of it seems like the memories, individual memories I have, are so complete and are so crystal clear. The things I do remember, I'm sure there are lots of stuff that I don't remember. The things that I do are so crystal clear they could have happened yesterday. And when his friend sends me the note, it was so long ago. It's almost like so long ago, it doesn't matter. That's how long ago it was. Anyway, back to the phones. Eugene, Oregon. This is Thomas. It's great to have you with us, sir. How are you doing?
Privet Kaktilao, Comrade Limbaugh. Rush, I got to tell you, I am so honored to be on the phone with you. But I must say, I just wanted to thank you for shaping my political views. I was driving across a Dumbarton Bridge back in 89, maybe 90, when the Iraq War broke out, or the Desert Shield.
And you actually mean the Kuwait War. That's where we got Saddam Hussein thrown out of Kuwait, is what he's talking about.
Yeah, I was so scared because I was a young man. I had my first kid. And I was searching for answers, and I was going through the radio stations, and boom, there you were. And right on the middle of the bridge, I'm listening to you explain what was going on, and it made me so calm. It just cooled my heart.
Well, how about that? That's great.
No, it was awesome. And I've been a listener ever since.
That was back in Oregon? That bridge is in Oregon? Where you live
No, Dumbarton Bridge. I was in the Bay Area at the time.
Bay Area?
Over in San Francisco, driving from Newark to Palo Alto.
Okay.
If you know the area. But, oh, my God. I tell you, Rush, you sold me. And from that time, then, I have just been an avid listener. And you cool so many people's thoughts about the chaos that's going on right now. You are so smooth with every delivery that you have, every commentary, every insight of what's going on.
Well, I appreciate it. We try not to panic here, Thomas. There's no reason to panic. As I mentioned in the previous half hour, I've always promised people I'd tell you when it's time to panic. People have asked me over the years, but it's not. In fact, we're moving away from what would consider be territory or time to panic. But I really appreciate that. I'm continually blown away when I hear from people who remember what they were doing when they first heard this program. I can see him out there. He's driving across the bridge. He's destitute. He's alone. He got the war and a rock starting. He's got a kid just born. Doesn't know what's going to happen. And this voice, he's scanning all the radio stations. Maybe even have the scan button on, just looking for anything. And my voice stops him. And he's been with us ever since. That's great. I'm extremely complimented and flattered. I appreciate it very much. And you're great to mention it. Here is Bill in San Diego. You're next, sir. Great to have you with us. What's up?
Hey, Rush, I just want to say I really enjoy watching the news and watching Trump take issues and exposing the Democrats. I'm waiting for him to now talk about the Democrats and the Democratic Party war on women and how they're attacking all the women that are successful and people he's promoting, and that he is going to stand up for them and keep promoting them, and he's going to always back the women in government and doesn't understand why the Democrats are so threatened by them.
Well, I think that's, you have an actual very perceptive observation there. Trump fights back at every attack they make. And if he nominates a woman, we can pretty much predict what's going to happen. If he nominates, let's say it's Amy Barrett, They're going to go after her in predictable ways. That's the thing. The left is imminently predictable. The left does not surprise you. They don't surprise us anymore, right, folks? We've seen it. We know what to expect. What has always frustrated us is that even knowing that, our side never had a strategery to deal with it. Our side always did seem surprised. You and I aren't. Well, Trump has a strategy of dealing with it, and if they go after his nominee, he's going to defend her. You know, I have to remind you of something. The Bork nomination in 1987 or whatever it was in the, I've noticed in the late 80s, and it was before this program started. The Clarence Thomas nomination was the nomination that I spent, I mean, tremendous amounts of time on, trying to expose the Democrats and their effort there. But when Bork was nominated, even at the time, I was struck by how little defense of him there was from people in the Reagan administration. And it's kind of an illustration of how things have changed, because the standard rule of thumb back then was that you didn't respond to this stuff, that it was the confirmation process, and they were scholarly. The confirmation process was constitutional. It was very important. It was very buttoned down and reserved, and it was proper. Well, Ted Kennedy blew that all out of water with his defamation rant on the Senate floor about Bork. Ted Kennedy forever changed the entire scope of Supreme Court and federal court judicial nominations. Forever changed them. But even back then, as competent as the Reagan political people were, and Reagan had some of the best political people at the time in the business, but nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew how to deal with this. So Bork pretty much was left to fend for himself, because many people thought, by the way, that he could. Brilliant guy. He likes debate. He loves mixing it up with these guys. And so they left Bork alone. And I'm telling you, in 1987, I am 36 years old. And I'm watching this, and I'm flabbergasted by how Bork is just being allowed to swim alone out there in the deep water. And there wasn't a life raft, there wasn't a rescue boat, there was nothing. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. They're letting this guy, and it was obvious he was going to go down in flames. And they went after him on, I'll never forget one answer that Bork gave to a question that just blew up Washington. It just blew them up. The media and the Democrats could not get over this. I don't remember the specific question, but it had to do with how Bork viewed the job of being a Supreme Court justice. And his answer was, and I'm sure that Bork, and I got to know him quite well after all of this, after this program started, our paths crossed a number of times. And I ended up hosting a couple of roundtable discussions nationwide where he was a guest. And it was obvious that his perception of the job and his perception of what those in the Senate were looking for was at odds. I wish I could remember the specific question, but Bork's answer was, Senator, this couldn't be any better. This entire position will be an intellectual feast. And the town blew up because they thought Bork was describing something esoteric, nonspecific, that he looked at the job as all about him and how much fun it was going to be to give his brain a workout every day rather than sit there and judge actual cases. And that's not what Bork meant. But it was widely misinterpreted, misunderstood to indicate that Bork had a huge vanity problem, that he was arrogant and condescending, and that he didn't have respect for the senators who were conducting the confirmation hearings. And that, coupled with Ted Kennedy and the fact that there was no defense in the Reagan administration, very little, Bork went down in flames. And there was a privacy case that Bork got too in the weeds on. All he would have had to say, I fully expect the right to privacy. Bork got into it that there is no right to privacy in the Constitution, Senator. And, of course, there isn't. It's implied in the Fourth Amendment, but it's not stated. A direct right to privacy is not stated, yet everybody thinks they have one. So Bork got in the weeds with him on that, and this was about a contraception case in Connecticut, and it wasn't long before it was over. And then Ginsburg was nominated to replace him, and it was learned that he had smoked a little doobie. Like the weed, he was gone, and that's how we ended up with Justice Kennedy. Well, now it's all different. Now they're going to go after any Trump nominee. They tried going after Gorsuch, but Schumer blundered big time on Gorsuch by pulling the nuclear option. He should have realized that Gorsuch was going to get confirmed, that Gorsuch didn't change the balance of power, quote unquote. But they were flexing their muscles, the Democrats were, and they wanted to try to stop Gorsuch just to thwart Trump. And now Schumer has shot a lot of his ammo, and he doesn't have it to use anymore. So they're going to try character assassination, but the big equalizer is going to be Trump. Trump is going to defend his nominee. Trump is going to be attacking the people that attack whoever the nominee is. And the caller's right. If he nominates Amy Barrett or any other woman, and these people, Chuck Schumer and the left and all these advocacy groups, if they go after her, you can count on the fact that Trump is going to be pointing out on Twitter and everywhere he can what a bunch of hypocrites and worse these people are. Because she checks off, if it's Amy Barrett, she checks off every box that feminists have claimed women should be. Every box. She's accomplished more than most people ever will in their lives and has 7 kids. That blows their minds. I got to take a break a little long. We'll be back after this. With her child, who accosted the director of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, Scott Pruitt. He was in a restaurant yesterday, and this teacher, she's identified as a teacher, saw him in there and became outraged. She accused him of doing horrible things to the environment, destroying the planet, not feeling and doing the right things about climate change. Her husband filmed it and posted it all over social media. And the woman said she was doing it for her son because she loves children so much. If you look at her Facebook page, she has been fixated on the separation of families at the border. You know, she loves children so much, ladies and gentlemen, she praises Planned Parenthood in her Facebook posts. And she uses her son. She uses her young son to raise money for Planned Parenthood. Her son's name is Brooks, and she's got a picture of him climbing some, looks like the backstop at a children's baseball field. Yeah, Brooks is over $1,000 and still climbing for his birthday fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. Well, let me tell you how this babe is. She's not just a teacher. She got tats all over her arms, and she's a teacher at Sidwell Friends. Now, does that ring a bell with me? Sidwell Friends is where everybody who is anybody in Washington sends their kids. It's a private school. The Obama daughters went there. The list is exhaustively long, and they're just identifying her as a left-wing teacher. Her name is Kristin Mink, Kristin Mink, and she is the latest to accost a Trump administration official, while the official is nice. Scott Pruitt, by the way, on the substance of environmental issues, is doing a bang-up job. And that's why he's so disgustingly hated by these people on the left. You know, folks, also, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, there continues to be post-election analysis of this woman. And there's an excellent piece today. Where does this run? This is in the Atlantic, and it's by somebody that used to write at National Review. I'm not sure how you pronounce the first name. It's Reihan. I would look at it, it's Reihan Salam. And he's done, you know, the New York Times never even heard of this babe. They had one story on this woman during the campaign. They didn't even think she had a prayer. So there wasn't a whole lot of study of her campaign while it was going on, but this guy's gone back and looked at it, and it is, you know, it's kind of interesting to look at the things that she did not campaign on. This is the babe that beat the dinosaur Democrat Joe Crowley in that Bronx, Queens district. That shook up the Democrat Party. And if you look at the things that she did not campaign on, I'll give you a little hint. She didn't spend any time on Russian collusion. She spent no time on Trump conspiracies with obstruction, collusion, none of what the Democrat Party and the drive-bys have been devoted to. But there's more. We'll be back in just a second, which really just means I'm taking more phone calls than usual, so have at it. Line up 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. How many of you are of the belief that coffee is a killer? That coffee does bad things to your heart? That coffee hardens the artery? Well, all this stuff has been said over the years. Same with oat bran, been good for you, and it's a killer. And every week for a while there, for a number of years, there was some health scare from a natural occurring food. Well, guess what? Go ahead and have that cup of coffee, maybe even several of them, because there's brand new research out there that shows coffee may make you live longer. Even if you drink 8 cups a day, if you drink more, it could make you live longer. Some people out there now say that nicotine is something that guards against Alzheimer's or maybe Parkinson's, I forget which. But there was a study of 500,000 British adults, coffee drinkers, had a slightly lower risk of death over 10 years than abstainers. So they have 500,000 people. They determined which of them drank coffee and which didn't. And of those who drank coffee, there's slightly lower risk of death. Of course, these are stats, and you can do anything with them. My favorite example is what you can do with carrots. For example, do you realize that everybody who has eaten carrots has died within years of doing so? Do you know how many automobile accidents occurred after people included carrots in their most recent meal? I mean, you see what you can do with this stuff. And so every day we're treated, or every week now, we're treated as some new magical health revelation. And people follow it. For the longest time, how many people believed that drinking wine helped you lose weight? That there was something in red wine that sped up your metabolism, or that something in red wine that made your heart healthier. But it had to be from France. Who do you think was behind that one? It could have been the French wine industry that could have been behind that. And then they would all say, well, yeah, but look at the French. All we do, we eat fat, we eat bread, we eat cheese, have wine, and you don't find very many fat French people. So people would say, yeah. And then 60 Minutes got a hold of it, and they even did a story on it. Let me get back to this Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for just a minute, because this kind of stuff, I will admit, is interesting to me. This woman won in a landslide. She's 28 years old. Let me tell you what I really think of her, by the way. I have not done this, but I want to go through just a brief character analysis, or character is not totally correct. But she's being compared to Obama. Do you notice that? Now, in the process of comparing her to Obama, they are trying to say this woman is great. This woman is the next last great hope. This, they say, is the female Obama. Well, let's take a look at who both of them actually are, shall we? If we want to really get down deep and analyze this. Let's first look at Obama. There are a bunch of stories out there right now that Obama is secretly working feverishly behind the scenes to overthrow Trump, to paralyze Trump, to thwart Trump. But he's doing it quietly. Remember, I predicted Obama would be very public, that he'd be going on TV every time Trump or whoever the president was attempting to unravel an Obama agenda item, but he's not done that. There's been a story, Paul Sperry in the New York Post. Hey, this guy, if you think Obama's drifted away and is, out in golf courses playing golf or what, no. Mr. Sperry said he's got a big staff at his house. He's got Organizing for America, and they're working hard. They're working every day to undermine Trump and to reestablish the Obama agenda. So, and that version seems to have become dominant, that Obama is active but invisible, that he is working hard but nobody can see it. And he's doing everything he can, being the brilliant guy he is, to stop and destroy Donald Trump. Okay, let's just take it. How is that working out for them? Number one. But it has been my observation that, on balance, I don't think Obama fits the definition of a traditional hard worker. Obama did not put in a lot of hours. He didn't get to the Oval Office particularly early. He rarely got there before 9 a.m., and he spent much of his day engaged in following his hobbies and so forth. He really was not. He delegated a lot. But I don't think Obama, and by the way, I'm not saying this in a critical sense. Don't misunderstand me. I don't think Obama has actually worked very hard at anything in his whole life. I think that he has benefited from a lot of people handing him things, thinking he's something special, thinking he's something great, and paving his way for him here and there. He's obviously told how special he is all the time. He believed, that he's godlike. But let's put it this way. Donald Trump does more in a day than Barack Obama did in a month. I'm talking about actual hours spent achieving. Trump barely sleeps. Trump is consistently and constantly on the go, to the point that the Democrats and the media really can't keep up with him. And it's not new. Trump has lived his life this way. I don't think Obama has a personality type or anything close to Trump's in the sense of traditional work ethic. I don't think Obama's had to. Obama's benefited from being a number of things, including being a guy that a lot of people wanted to attach themselves to because they figured he was going someplace. I mean, look at how hard did he really campaign for Hillary? I mean, his legacy was on the line, his very legacy. And when he did campaign, he was telling everybody that if you want more of me, if you want a third term of Obama, then you've got to vote for her. But he didn't say it much. Now, I know that all these people thought Hillary was going to win and win in a landslide, but he wasn't out there working hard for her. Now, maybe he really didn't want her to win. Who knows? But I'm just saying he wasn't out there busting tail. Obama never did. Obama is not, never has been the traditional hard worker that you conjure when you think of that. And I also don't think, and I've said this before, I don't think that Obama is a political whiz, and Hillary isn't. Now, they benefit from image builders who have told everybody that, man, there's nobody smarter. And noted that Obama was saying that about her, and she would say that about him. I'll never forget the Democrat convention where Obama's out there making his speech, and he looks at the audience, he finds Bill Clinton, and he says, Bill, look, we got to be honest with it. She can run rings around us, Bill. Barack Obama said there has never been anybody more qualified in the history of the world to be president of the United States than Hillary Clinton. Well, that was a joke. Obama didn't believe that. Obama thinks he's the best guy that's ever been around to be president. That was being loyal to the party and loyal to his Secretary of State and loyal to his agenda, but he doesn't really believe that. Everybody Obama, not everybody, but I'm telling you, folks, 80% of the candidates Obama endorsed flamed out. He's a great community organizer. Don't misunderstand. He understands Alinsky better than Alinsky does. Obama doesn't have to consult the Alinsky manual to know what Alinsky would do in terms of community organizing, agitating, upsetting apple carts. But when it comes to the political science of political strategy and planning, I think there were other people in Obama's administration and his campaign who did that. Now, Valerie Jarrett is a different matter. I think she was probably that person I'm talking about. I'm sure she is in charge of whatever number of people that are part of Obama's pack that are trying to undermine Trump. I'm not saying that Obama's not doing it, that it's not happening under his auspices, but he's not the guy doing it. Obama's not out there doing this. Obama doesn't roll up the sleeves. Other people do it, and Valerie Jarrett and others that were in the Obama administration and in his campaign are probably doing the hard work. But he's a figurehead. I don't even think he's the real leader. He's the figurehead. He's the picture. He's the face of whatever movement is. But that's just my perception. Now, they're saying that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the next Obama. Okay, well, let's run down her list. She is a community organizer, and she has a very ethnic name, Ocasio-Cortez. Like Obama, she is shockingly inexperienced in real life. Her big accomplishment until her upset win is that she managed to graduate from college. I'm not putting anybody down here. Do not misunderstand. She has light brown skin, similar to Obama. She's mixed heritage like Obama. She talks very well like Obama. She can be persuasive like Obama. She is the youngest in her circle like Obama was. The leftist media adores her to the point that she is the female Obama. Her background is not exactly how she presents it, like Obama's wasn't. She has also upset the Democrat establishment, like Obama upset Hillary. She's come along and upset Crowley and everything he stands for. But nobody really knows who she is other than this. There is confusion about her background. She may have grown up in a very wealthy, well, she did grow up in a very wealthy, Tony, New York suburb, Westchester County, which she doesn't talk about much. She also is very loud and upfront about her socialism, where Obama tried to hide it and mask it. So to that extent, we have progressed some. They have progressed in the sense that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not at all uncomfortable by wearing her Marxism on her sleeve. So she wins, and she wins in a landslide that nobody saw coming, which is akin to what Donald Trump did. So Raheem Salam, the Atlantic, goes out and after the fact starts looking at her campaign. And here's a few things that he noticed about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's campaign. She had nothing to say about Russian interference in the 2016 election. Now, this fascinates me because that is the tentpole of the Democrat Party's future campaigns. They believe they were cheated out of the election. That's all that's mattered. Trump-Russia collusion. Election was stolen. They've got to make it right. This White House is really Hillary Clinton's. The Democrats won that election. It was Trump that stole it, working with the Russians. This has been the thing that's animated them, motivated them, inspired them. This is the thing they've all gotten out of bed every day trying to prove, from the deep state, the intel people, the FBI, the DOJ, the DNC, the Democrat Party, and everybody else. And this woman doesn't even mention it in her campaign. Now, you think the Democrat Party at large will note this? Why didn't she mention it? I mean, if it's so important, if it's so crucial if it is the primary reason the Democrats say they should be voted for, is to correct this major, major controversial sabotage. And she doesn't even mention it. She didn't even talk about James Comey. She didn't spend any time talking about how Comey stole the election by reopening her email investigation. She didn't spend a lot of time criticizing Trump and what he's doing to the so-called international order. She campaigned on Marxism and socialism, and that was her bread and butter. She spent some time ripping Trump, don't miss it, but on the basis that Trump is a reprobate and a fool and a brute and unsophisticated. But she didn't spend any time at all on the things the Democrat Party has staked their future on. She campaigned on pure, unadulterated socialism. Now, the reason all this fascinates me is because the Democrat Party at large, looking at her campaign and others, are going to be scratching their heads left and right because they don't want to give up this collusion story. They don't want to give up the obstruction story. They don't want to give up on Mueller. She didn't mention Robert Mueller in the campaign. She didn't mention the special counsel. I mean, maybe in passing, it was not a focal point. She was all about selling America as a socialist, Marxist country. Now, the Democrat Party knows full well that if they do that party-wide, nationwide, they are finished and they are cooked. And yet, this young woman, being now portrayed by the media as the future of the Democrat Party, is inspiring a lot of people. I think it all adds up to a gigantic identity crisis for the Democrats, and they're going to have to figure out going forward whether or not they want to nationalize these elections against Trump and how they want to. And does the Democrat Party really want to promote candidates like this woman who are going to be seeking election in the House of Representatives? Because remember, they want to impeach Trump. She didn't even talk about that, folks. So are they going to adopt what this woman won in a landslide, pure socialism, Marxism, communism, as a thrust of the campaign? This will be fascinating to me to watch this. Tom Perez, the chairman of the Democrat National Committee, this morning, he was on the radio and had this to say about the campaign.
My daughters, I have 3 kids, 2 of whom are daughters. One just graduated college, one is in college, and they were both texting me about their excitement over Alexandria because she represents the future of our party. She ran a spirited campaign.
There you go. She's the future of the party. She didn't talk about Trump. She didn't talk about Russia. She didn't talk about James Comey. She didn't talk about any of the things that the Democrats are talking. Here's the DNC chairman saying she is the future. Over here is Democrat Senator Tammy Duckworth. She's from Illinois, and she says, I don't think you can go so far to the left and still win the Midwest. She said this on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday. Coming from a Midwestern state, I think you need to be able to talk to the industrial Midwest. You need to be able to listen to the people there in order to win an election nation. Hey, Tammy, you may be right on, but your party has kissed those people off and goodbye. Beginning in November 2011, the white and blue-collar working class, your party has whisked them away in exchange for this gigantic coalition of minorities and illegals. And you in trouble. On his show, they've moved Fredo to prime time on CNN. Have you seen it? It's I don't mean the show, the ratings. I hate to say, I see these stories on these guys' ratings, and it's embarrassing, and oh, it's bad. Snerdley's asking me how bad is it. It's bad, but I get nervous talking about it because we're all subject to the vagaries of ratings here in this. Although the EIB network is sitting up there at the peak. But they had high hopes. They moved Fredo from what is called Morning Drive and they moved into prime time. He's up against Hannity, and it just. But nevertheless, Fredo decided last night to weigh in on this split that's happening in the Democrat Party.
You've got him in a bad place on immigration. He screwed up. He did something that is inhumane and indecent, and people are calling him out for it, of all kinds of political stripes, except for one concentrated aspect of his base. Then, not since Roseanne Barr said what she said, only to be followed by Samantha Bee, who somehow wound up doubling down on dumb, have we seen the Democrats help Trump in a moment of need, because abolish ICE plays right into, you're about open borders. You're not about law enforcement. You're about letting anybody come in here, even if they're killers and drug dealers. Why make this play?
Because they believe it. Chris, they believe it, and so does your party. This is the dirty little secret. You know, to hear you guys go on and on and on about Trump separating families, you know that that's not true. You know that it was the law doing that, and you know now that it was Trump that stopped it because you guys whined and moaned about it. You know that the reason families are separated is because people send their kids all the way up here from Central America unaccompanied. You know why they get separated. They come up here and they're breaking the law by arriving and trying to get in, and then they claim asylum. The Democrat Party stands for, look at Black Lives Matter, the hate the cops. The NFL's even picked up that refrain. The NFL now is identified with the cops suck. The cops are bad. The cops are a bunch of racists. I'm sorry, Fredo, but the Democrat Party is now identified with an anti-law enforcement identity. When you go out and you make it a point to attack the first president in our lifetimes to really, well, let's say in the modern era, who really is trying to enforce immigration law, and you attack him as some sort of inhumane family divider, it's your party where this anti-cop refrain's coming from. It's your party where anti-ICE is coming from. Samantha Bee is in your party. Roseanne Barr is in your party. You can sit here and say these people are doing dumb things, and maybe they are, but they are in your party, and they are speaking as Democrats and as leftists. When these guys all of a sudden develop respect for ICE, and that's not what it is. They don't have respect for ICE. They just realize that the problem that's happening here is not what people believe. It's what people are admitting they believe. See, the Obama era and pretty much all previous Democrat eras, they had to lie to people about what they believe. They had to mask and camouflage. You know this drill. Their liberalism and their extreme radicalism. But now these youngsters don't want to do that. They want to lead with it. They want it right out in the open. And Fredo and his crowd, oh my God, you can't say that. You can't say that. We'll never win anything. But they are saying it, Fredo, and they're Democrats. They are leftists. They are radicals and they are Democrats, and they are your party. And you're going to have to either figure out how to shut them up or you're going to have to join them. But I don't think these youngsters want to play by your rules. I don't think they want to have to lie about who they are anymore. I think they want to hit everybody, both barrels, right between the eyes with who they are. That is going to be the fight the Democrats are going to have. Here's Betty in my adopted hometown of Sacramento. Great to have you with us. I'm glad you got through. How are you?
I'm doing well. Mega dittos from one of 7 conservative children born to Georgine and Barry Bandera. So I'm very proud that Amy has 7 children. That would be something. She gets on the Supreme Court. So I've been a substitute teacher for over 12 years, and I'm telling you, I have never read a pro-American book to students in the school system. Everything is this indoctrination, so you see how it happens. And just last month, the month before school was out, I'm reading a Scholastic News magazine, and it was 4 pages that these kids went through about the Warsaw Ghetto and how awful it was, and just the suffering and everything that happened to the Jewish people. So I turned to the last page, and here was the line. Then Germany lost the war. Not one mention of American involvement of how we save the world. It just is never ending in the public school system.
Yeah, this is, it's been going on for quite a while. This is where all this negativism is occurring. It's being taught. That's why I say these people, these young kids who are spouting all this stuff, they weren't born this way. I mean, they didn't come out of the womb thinking America was this horrible, unfair, unjust, immoral, rotten place. You want to trace this. I trace it actually to the multicultural. It's actually, you can trace it further back to that, because the Soviet Union as a communist nation has been succeeding in trying to infiltrate various elements of American life since before we were all born. So that's a given. But this stuff reaching the mainstream of public school curriculum happened with the so-called multicultural curriculum. And the multicultural crowd were a bunch of minorities, fed up, tired of being minorities, and they wanted to take it out on somebody. They harbored endless resentment and blame for America, and they started teaching it under the idea that this is multiculturalism, that we need to throw all these different cultures together, and people must learn how other people live. And the white majority of this country must be taught how unjust and how despotic it has been, and amends must be made. And this has been going on, I don't know, 30, 40 years, maybe even longer. And it's insidious. And so there's you know, you hope these kids get out of these schools and grow up and have life experiences that makes them question this stuff. And it does. In some instances, some of them build on it and grow out of it. Others don't, though. Betty, thanks for the call. Grant in Litchfield, Maine. Great to have you, sir. How are you doing?
Great, Russ. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I wanted to touch back on the parades and why Republicans, quote-unquote, successfully appropriate patriotism, patriotic symbols, and also touches on something you were just talking about right before the last caller. Fact is that we're not the ones out there burning the American flag. Our celebrities, the activists, aren't the ones thinking about blowing up the White House so much. And our traditional, i.e. conservative clergy, aren't the ones screaming, GD America, our chickens are coming home to roost.
No, that's true. So you think, why do you think that's why the flag and all that is appealing to people in a Republican way?
Well, that's why we're able to, quote-unquote, appropriate these symbols, because when the Democrats try to stand in front of these symbols, or particularly the far left, it's extremely hollow, because you see on the news all the time all these activists out there, again, doing things like burning the flag and stomping on the flag and talking up all these socialist dictators. So it's kind of hard to say that you're so pro-America when you're doing nothing but talking down America and like Obama
that's
apologizing for America.
They can't hear me. They're not saying they're pro-America. That's the whole point. I had a problem with this story. We're not appropriating anything. That is a media term, appropriating the flag as though it's everybody's, but we're somehow using it for our own benefit. The flag is already a symbol of the United States, and to carry it and to display it and to do parades and have things around it on the 4th of July is not appropriating anything. It's simply using it. But the left comes along and says, you guys are appropriating the flag for your own special purposes. And they want to try to tell us the flag doesn't stand for what we think it does. While you're right, they kneel when the anthem is being played, they kneel when the flag is around, or they disrespect it in other ways. I just think these people have I don't know how many of them are going along with it because it's fun. You know, hate America, you get on the news, you get noticed, people think you're hip, you're cool, and so forth, versus how many true believers there actually are. But we're not appropriating anything. The idea that he's talking about, by the way, the Harvard study from 2011, in which just the sight of the American flag during a 4th of July parade was judged to inspire people to be Republican. Well, there's really only one way that can happen. If the flag and the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem, and all of the things that occur on Independence Day around the flag, if that steers people to Republicans, it must be because the Democrats are doing something driving people away. But whatever, we're not appropriating or stealing anything. Quick time out. Back with more after this.